Hey, thanks for being here. Let's do some pod crashing. Episode number 207 is with KB from the podcast On Call with KB.
Good morning, Arrow. I'm doing well. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. I love what you're doing here with the podcast On Call. I think this has got to be the very first time where people are bringing TV doctors and real doctors together to find out, hey, is it real? Is it not real? Let's have a discussion.
Well, thank you. Yes. You know what? I actually started off in the sciences and I work in healthcare. You know, I keep that kind of under wraps, though, just obviously for professional reasons. But simultaneously, while working in healthcare, I also work as a TV and film critic. Excuse me, as a TV and film critic. And so I had this crazy idea where I was like, oftentimes, ever since I was a little kid, I would watch these dramatic science and medicine TV shows. Mm-hmm. And I would think to myself, is this accurate? Is this humanly possible? Can this really, really happen? And so as I went through my training and my degrees are in biology and chemistry. And so as I kind of went through my training, you do find some quite intense, crazy stuff. And then once I started to work on the healthcare side, I was like, oh yeah, we definitely have like a slew of patients that have the wildest things. So I said, you know what? It's time for me to merge both sides of the houses, so to speak. Both of my careers, bring them together. And how can I do it? And I thought On Call with KB was the perfect medium. I'm like, I would love to have some of my peers from the scientific community, some medical doctors come on, but then also have some creatives behind the show tap into what makes it so unique. So, this idea grew and grew and grew. And I have to shout out the iHeart Next Step program for really believing in this idea that I had and saying, you know what, let's do it. And so, this first season, we covered Grey's Anatomy, which is currently the longest running medical TV drama on show, on TV. And it is in season 19 currently. Season 19 premiered this past Thursday, the same day that On Call with KB premiered. And so, I was like, let's do it. So over the course of this season, I mean, you are going to get a lot. We are diving into the iconic episode of the man with the bomb inside his body. Everyone knows Grey's Anatomy from that. It was a supersized kind of, Super Bowl episode. So everyone knows that. We're going to dive into a woman with toxic blood. We're diving into the episode where the baby's heart is growing outside of its chest. Yeah. Can that happen? So we have some good stuff coming along the way this season.
How do you decide what is going to be the big thing? Because I mean, I am a podcaster, and you've got to be able to go, okay, I can't go for personal interest. I have to go for what would my listeners receive? What would they want to put inside their cars or offices?
Yeah. So you know what? It's so funny because someone asked me, are you going in order of seasons? And I was like, absolutely not.
Good for you.
I'm going for the biggest and boldest and wildest and craziest episodes, essentially. So, I knew in creating this show, I absolutely had to do the man with the bomb inside the body cavity, because that was actually iconic from a television perspective in the sense that there had been no other TV show to get a kind of supersized episode after the Super Bowl. So I said, this was historic in and of itself, have to do it. And then also, people are going to ask, can someone survive, this type of incident? And so, you'll have to listen to the show to find out. But I'm picking the wildest ones. It's so interesting because the one with the baby's heart growing outside of its chest, I talked to a very prominent cardiologist from Los Angeles on that episode. And it's so interesting to just hear kind of the stories that arise and the cases that arise that come up. And so that one was more so of like a heartfelt episode because it is interesting, can a baby survive that type of thing? So I'm picking the wildest ones. I want to do some of the craziest episodes. And of course, I want to do some fun ones too. So, I'm hoping to get into the woman with spontaneous orgasms because, everyone wants to know, is that possible as well?
Now, as the podcast continues to grow, because I'm that one person that sits there and says that if you make it to 7, congratulations. But when you make it to 100, now you've got a podcast. So therefore, what I like to do is ask the question of, what will you grow beyond Grey's Anatomy and include old shows such as MASH, Marcus Welby, MD, or even St. Elsewhere, which was critically a great show, but the fan base ran out on it. But still, they were doing things that were just amazing. But were they real? And we got you, KB, to say, look, here's the situation. Let's talk about it.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that question. What a fabulous question. Yes, I am. When I pitched this show, to be honest, I pitched it with ER in mind at first, because that is actually the first medical drama that hooked me as a child. Now, I know there weren't very many children watching ER, but I definitely was one of them. And my parents used to always laugh like, oh, clearly you like the sciences if you're going to sit here and watch ER with us. And so I pitched it with ER in mind. So ER is definitely going to be on the docket at some point. But when I pitched the show, I said, you know what? There are too many medical dramas to stick to one show. I personally want every single season to be different. And so you're right. We have such great content out there that we could do. And I can even tap into a little bit of the dramedies as well. So I could see a little Scrubs crossover for one season. And of course, you know, they have their fabulous podcast on the network as well.
They do.
So,
you know, they sure do.
Yep. So we could do that. I'm thinking ER, The Resident, House, of course, which is, you know, a big one, because on House, they used to do some of the wildest things I've ever seen on TV. So, yes, the list goes on and on. I mean, we have Chicago Med now. You said St. Elsewhere. We have so many different avenues to pull from. And so that's the exciting thing. So, yeah, I'm hoping to switch it up every single season.
My go-to is The Good Doctor. For some reason, I can't pull myself from that at all. I love that show.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So, but you know, you're creating this with incredible people. I want to put the focus right now on the super fan, Lauren Warren, and then we're going to talk about Dr. Hope. But Lauren, like I said, is a super fan. She brings a depth of interpretation as well.
Yes, yeah. So the way the show is set up, I have a super fan come on at first so we can talk about the water cooler moments, because obviously, you know, it's not a podcast if we can't have fun. And Grey's Anatomy is known for its wild and crazy medical cases, but it's also known for its wild and crazy relationship drama. And so, you know, that is why fans watch, a mix of both. So Lauren and I were able to really talk about, in this very first episode that came out on Thursday, we got to talk about Sandra Oh's final episode as Dr. Christina Yang. And Dr. Christina Yang, in my opinion, is one of the absolute best TV characters that we've seen in a long time. And she was just so unapologetically herself. And she was brilliant. And she was a surgeon first. And she just didn't apologize for it. And I loved that. So we were able to dive into that. We were able to dive into the real love story of Grey's Anatomy, which, in my personal opinion, was the relationship between Christina and Meredith. You know, they were each other's person. And, you know, they had a lot of great romances with a lot of great guys, but at the end of the day, I think it was the two of them for me, you know, their friendship and the depth that it had, and also their rise in their journey in medicine. So it was a joy to be able to talk to my friend Lauren, who is also a podcaster, and she's a screenwriter, and she's one of the most amazing people to chat with. It was great to be able to dive deeper into the episode in that way with her. So I absolutely adored it.
So when Dr. Hope comes to the studio, there's a thing there, or a term that we use in radio, to when people walk into the studio, save it for the air. In other words, we do not talk. And the reason why is because I don't want to burn out the story. And then because once you go live with it, it's like, all right, we've already talked about this and there's a difference to it. So when Dr. Hope comes onto the show, is it the same way? Save it for the air. We can't talk. Good morning. Hello. Let's rock. Yes, absolutely. You know, I like to prep my guests just a little bit, but not a lot, because I want it to be organic. And you're right, Arrow. As soon as you come on, I kind of want it to be free flowing, and I want you to give me your thoughts naturally. Dr. Hope was so fantastic because, ironically, we had kind of parallel lives. You know, we both went to college in Atlanta, studying the sciences. And then, of course, she went on to become an incredible surgeon. She still is a surgeon, but also she got an opportunity to be the medical consultant on season 10 of Grey's Anatomy. So she was there for Sandra Oh's, you know, final taping as Dr. Christina Yang. She helped come up with a case. You know, we talk about 3D printing, which is obviously a revolutionary technique. I mean, being able to do 3D printing of organs helps so much from a transplant perspective, because people wait years and years and years to get on that list. So it was incredible to hear Dr. Hope's story and her journey to Grey's Anatomy. She still does medical consulting. I know I'm going to have her back because she
she hasn't just worked on Grey's Anatomy. So she's worked on a few different shows, including one I may have already mentioned that we will be doing a season on. So it's lovely to hear kind of how her as a doctor and coming into this space too, in the entertainment space, how they merge the two and what they're really looking for when they're crafting and creating these storylines. Because the medical consultant works very, very closely with the writers in order to make sure that, things are accurate and believable, but also entertaining, right? Because this is still a drama and we still want to be entertained.
With your connection to Atlanta and with all that you have learned in at the universities and what you're learning on this podcast and stuff like that, KB, I mean, you actually could be that one person that comes up with a cure for Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta.
Listen, the Atlanta traffic is wild. I keep saying to people, everyone gives LA a bad rep, but I don't know. I feel like Atlanta traffic might be worse.
Oh my God. Worse. You might as well just camp out when you get on Spaghetti Junction at rush hour. It's like, forget it. We're not going anywhere.
Yes. I mean, honestly, take all of your calls from the car. You know what? Pop open your laptop. No. Don't do that. Be safe. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're basically working from your car for at least 3 to 4 hours, I feel like, until lunchtime. And then you know what? You're like, well, time that out.
Now, one of the things, and I would love to find out if you'll do this on a future episode, and that is that we all have become professionals in the medical field because of Google Doctors. Will you ever go that route and just go to a Google page and then work it out with a professional and say, how true is this? Is this, because a lot of people depend on Google to be diagnosed.
You know what? I think we will dive into a little bit, how the internet age, how that has impacted healthcare. Yeah. Because, I have a little conversation with a few of the doctors down the road about even just how this art form and this media, how television has helped some people come to the realization like, oh, I actually may need to see my provider because they've said a couple of things in this episode that align with some things that are happening with me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that, eventually down the line, we will start to talk about how the internet has influenced this and say, hey, is this medically accurate or not? But I would be remiss if I didn't say, we don't just talk to scientists and doctors and medical professionals. We also talk to people behind the episodes. So I'm going to give you a little preview this week, this Thursday, when we drop episode 2, I'm actually talking to acclaimed director Julianne Robinson, and she's worked on actually a ton of medical TV dramas, directing them. So we talk about that, kind of the technical aspects of bringing that to life, because, it has to be challenging. And also, to your point, how Google and the internet has influenced it, how her working as a director on these shows actually empowered her in some of her own personal medical cases.
Yep. You know what's going to happen here is that as each episode comes out and you break them down the way that you do, it's going to put people back on that flat screen to go back to watch those episodes. I mean, I just love the idea that it's like taking something from our past, you're modernizing it with conversation. Now we're going to go and rewatch that show and get a deeper purpose and meaning, and basically feel that why this show has been on television for 19 seasons.
Yeah, that's my hope. My hope is that people will fall in love with Grey's again, because I remember where I was when I fell in love with Grey's, and I actually was an undergrad studying biology and chemistry. And so it's so interesting because with Dr. Hope, she was when the show first came out, she too was in Atlanta, kind of studying this as well. And I have another physician who was a resident later on in the season. You'll hear she was a resident when the show came out, and they would talk about it at work. So it's just so interesting. I know that people are watching it live now, season 19, but I think it'll be great for people to revisit the past and those kind of iconic wild episodes. And now, even on my show, I link to some medical cases. Nice. So that way people can actually read up about it as well while they're doing their rewatch or after they do their rewatch. Yeah,
I'm going to give you a big compliment on that, because even in where you're sharing what the podcast is about, you really do keep people up to date with authenticity, and it's not just a sales tool that you're using. But you know what you're doing, though? You're going to create a connection with fans. They're going to want to reach out to you. Are you opening that door?
Yeah, I am. Absolutely. You know what? We're trying to figure out kind of the best way to have fan questions answered. But I definitely want to do that because, I mean, I know people will have a lot of different questions and there are a lot of different medical cases out there. And of course, when it comes to scientific research, it doesn't just happen one time and then it's done. There are a lot of cases that go into it, a lot of research that goes into it, and a lot of different, kind of components. And so I'm happy to answer any and all questions that I can. And I would love to even bring back, if I'm trying to figure out the best way. So, Errol, if you have any ideas, but also I'm trying to bring back those medical professionals that I had to also be able to answer questions.
Right.
So we got to do some sort of like live Q&A or something.
There's a lot of comedy clubs across the country that are doing exactly that. They instead of putting a comedian up on that stage, they're putting podcasters up there and they're doing their shows. So that's, there's an open door for you to walk through, is to get in touch with a comedy store and see if they're hosting things like that. Because no matter what, your fan base, people will come. It's an automatic. They want to participate with the podcast.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for that. Because I have been thinking a lot about that. Like, I would love to bring back some of the guests and just have a rich conversation and robust conversation and dive in a little bit more. And we can even pull some new cases and chat with them about it live. I would love that too.
Are you the next Oprah Winfrey?
No. I mean, listen, Oprah is Oprah and she is amazing. And I have had the honor of meeting her and interviewing her. She is fantastic. But I am the first and only and next KB. Let's say that,
I love
it's a different lane. But it's still, you know what? I give honor to Oprah because she opened so many doors for me. And so I am fantastically grateful for that. But I'm KB.
Okay, that explains why I feel the energy then, because you are transferring that energy into my heart, even though we are totally in different places. I feel that energy from your voice.
Oh, thank you so much, Arrow. I mean, you have been a fantastic interviewer. Like, thank you so much for this. It has been so lovely.
Well, KB, come back anytime. The door is always going to be open.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much, Arrow.
All right, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You as well.